Okay, we're broadcasting live.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. Welcome, everybody, to the Town of Mono Council meeting Tuesday, May 11th. This meeting is being conducted by means of electronic participation as permitted by Section 238, 3.1 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, and the Town of Mono Procedure Bylaw 2020-42. Unfortunately, council chambers is not open to the public. This meeting can be viewed live through the Mono Civic web portal video access. I want to confirm that there is quorum of council, and I call this meeting to order. Public notification of the proceedings is being video recorded and broadcast is required. To remind members of council that the closure of pecuniary interest could be made now or at any time throughout the meeting. I will read the Indigenous land acknowledgement. We would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Mono resides within the traditional treaty and ancestral lands of the Ti-o-na-tati, Atawandarong, Odinoshoni, Anishinaabe peoples. We also acknowledge that the town of Mono resides within the treaty lands named under Treaty 18, the Nottawasaga Purchase of 1818. These traditional territories upon which we live and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. It is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways and resources. So we will continue with our agenda, the adoption of the agenda, which is by approval, the council motion that council approves the agenda of session 10-2021 as circulated. Could I have a mover? Moved by Martin and seconded by Nix. Any additions or deletions? Seeing none, I'll ask for the vote if anyone is opposed to the motion. And seeing none, that's carried. Second motion that the council approves the minutes of session 9-2021 as circulated. Could I have a mover? Moved by Mengtalo and seconded by Creelman. And is there any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Is anyone opposed to the motion? Seeing none, that's carried. And we have a proclamation regarding National Nursing Week. Whereas National Nursing Week provides an opportunity to recognize the incredible contribution of all nurses and all frontline workers, and whereas the significance of their role in the healthcare system has been amplified by the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic has shown us the important role that nurses play in keeping people healthy. It has brought to light the courage and commitment that nurses work under every day. And whereas this year, National Nursing Week is May 10th to 16th, 2021, this theme this year is #WeAnswerTheCall and was developed by the Canadian Nurses Association to showcase the many roles that nurses play in a patient's healthcare journey. Therefore, I, Mayor Laura Ryan, do hereby proclaim May 10th to 16th, 2021 as Nursing Week in Mono, dated in council on this 11th day of May, 2021. Thank you. And so now we're at public question period. Mr. Simpson, have we had any questions submitted?
Yes, we have, Your Worship. Two questions this evening. The first is by Mr. Anthony Hoysen, who asks in the way of follow-up, what is the town doing to deal with racism? And is there an action plan? He also asks about speeding on Mono Adula Town Line with the same question. Is there an action plan and what are the next steps? And thirdly, he asked about gravel and paved roadways. And again, his question is there an action plan and next steps?
Okay, well, in terms of racism in the town of Mono, I'm a member of the Diversity, Inclusion, Equity Committee at the county. We are trying to formalize the way protocols need to be developed. It is a work in process. We are definitely focused. We have a number of representatives that are county-wide on the committee, so it is a working group. We are still trying to figure out what our steps are in order to make sure that it becomes a follow-up process. So again, we have a meeting tomorrow night. These are public meetings that are hosted online at county portal. So that's where that is in terms of action plan. I think because the county has spearheaded this direction, I think it is worthy that the local tiers wait to find out what the county is doing in order to try and follow up with and go shoulder to shoulder with the same kinds of directions. I know that Shelburne has an active committee that's working on a variety of different models. So I'm hoping that Mr. Huizen can access that information. In terms of speeding on the Mono Edgewood town line, I know that that was brought up through our town hall that we had last Thursday, and Deputy Mayor Creelman is part of our police services board, and it was going to be brought up at their next meeting as to the proper surveillance, etc., and working with our neighbor police OPP detachment to figure out what the opportunities are. And if anybody has anything, please jump in at any time. And as far as gravel and paved roadways, action plan and next steps, our Director of Public Works, Mike Dunmore, has a 10 to 15 year capital works plan for all of our roads. And that particular stretch of road is part of that plan. And at whatever point that the council of the day chooses to take monies out of reserves and upgrade that section of road, that would be up to a particular council of the day. Currently, this council has no plans on paving that section of roadway. It would be very expensive because of the topography and also the ditches, et cetera, et cetera. So again, if there's anybody else on council that wants to weigh in on these questions, please feel free to do so. Yes, Fred.
Yeah, I'm going on memory. We do have a plan. It's, I think, unofficial because it never was formally adopted by council. It's been around for, I'm going to say, a decade. I don't remember the Adjla to Sorrento, Mono Adjla town line. Now I am going on memory, your worship. So this is a long time ago. Our next priority is the blind line to go from the up to the 15th side road. That's been our next priority. And then there's a couple of sections, I forget, Mike, the 25 side road or the 20th side road, east and west of Highway 10 that were next on the priority list. I don't remember the Mono Adjla town line being on that list, but that list wasn't made up. Just, it wasn't a judgment call. We monitor traffic volumes every year. And once a gravel road starts to hit 5,000 vehicles a day, or maybe a bit lower than that, that's when we start putting it in our plan for asphalt pavement at some point in the future.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mike, did you have any comments?
So Your Worship and Councillor Nix, so there was some capital money that was set aside for the Mono-Adula Town Line. It was Bridge 23 and Bridge 32 that were to be replaced, and they're still on biannual bridge inspection report is coming up. And the point to the draft roads 2012 to 2022 capital roads and bridges plan, that's available on our website. It wasn't, as Your Worship mentioned, it wasn't accepted by the Council of the day, but what it does contain is the triggers and the events and the processes that Public Works uses to choose roads that are up for renewal. I can tell Council that since 2009, there's been $2.9 million spent on Mono-Adula Town Line, from 20 Side Road to 30, all the way to Rosemount. Those were bridge repairs, some large culvert emergencies, and last year we put down limestone crusher run. While residents in Public Works, I guess, don't always agree on what a good condition is, the Public Works Department does feel that the surface did improve for the Mono-Adula Town Line. And as Your Worship mentioned, the paving of the town line from 15 Side Road to 30 Side Road would be the equivalent of $6.7 million. And that's, those are some notes that I put together to hopefully answer Anthony's questions. That Public Works, we do look at these roads, we do provide them to Council when we deem them to be appropriate to be subject for a rebuild. And I hope that Anthony takes a read of the Capital Road Bridges Plan, which would be subject to an update in 2020-2023. And perhaps Anthony and I can start to have some conversations back and forth. This seems very one-sided, this public question period, and I think Anthony and I hopefully could have some. I could answer any questions that he may have, or if he does want to come through Council, by all means. But Your Worship, you are correct. I think that Public Works has a plan, and we're trying to stick to it as close as we possibly can. With respect to traffic counts, it is low on our consideration for repaving, and we've added after the town hall meeting last week, we added the Mono-Adula Town Line from 25 to 30 for the solar speed sign in both directions. And should there be any reason to come to Council with respect to the results of that, we'd be more than happy to present that to Council. And I hope that answers some Anthony's questions.
Thank you, Mike. The other thing I'd like to say too is that in some respects, I guess I would like to be quite open to say that be careful what you wish for. If that road was paved from Hockley all the way up to 89, it would become a thoroughfare north-south route for anybody who is commuting. And with the kind of topography it has and the treacherous ditching it has, it would be very problematic in my mind. We already have problems on Airport Road with speeding and stunt driving, and that is a county responsibility. And I can see how there will be more traffic interested in using that particular stretch of road to bypass any kind of traffic congestion, and the speeding would be worse. So it really concerns me that in order to improve what is considered to be the quality of road from gravel to become pavement, It's then going to become a thoroughfare for not only stunt drivers, but also motorcycle traffic, because that's a perfect route to go from Hockley Road into Hockley and come straight up to 89. So that is just my public comment in terms of what that road could potentially become. So if the speeding is considered to be a problem now, it will become double or more if that was paved, if we could ever afford it. So that's my comment. Yes, John.
Just to Anthony's concern about the speeding, after the town hall meeting, I put together an email for the Police Services Board outlining the issues related to policing that were raised. That email and those issues, including the speeding on that Anthony raises here, have been forwarded to the OPP detachment commander, and those issues will be discussed at the next meeting of the Police Services Board on June the 16th. I just have a question for Mike. How soon can we get the speed measuring solar-powered device installed on the stretch of road? It would be very helpful if we had some statistics to consider for our meeting on the 16th of June.
Deputy Mayor, I think it'd be reasonable to say within the next 5 days. I know it's on Bayberry right now, so we do have to bring a staff member into the office to download the information, and I would be subject to his schedule. But before we move it, we need to download it. So reasonable, I think, would be 5 days. Would be no problem.
I think 5 days would be fair. Any longer than that might not give us a good snapshot at what's happening there. And I hope it will be set up in such a way that it's not only messaging, but also capturing speed data.
It does capture, it will, and it will be the same as the resultant of the conversations that occurred on third line. I think that's where you're going with that.
Absolutely, thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that, John. Okay, now Fred Simpson, do we have any other questions?
The other question mirrors what Mr. Huizen was asking regarding paving of the Mono-Adula town line between the 25th and 30th side roads. So I think it's probably been well addressed from your previous answers.
Okay. Thank you.
Your Worship, if I could just add a couple things to this. One thing that we did do this year, as Council's aware, that we've been having a little trouble with slop and mush on our roads. So we backed off as long as we possibly could with grading this year. And the resultant of that is it's twofold. We had a little bit more potholes and washboard for a longer period of time, but we had less dust. And we started our circular grading this week, and the dust complaints are rolling in now. So I'll update on Council on the calcium. With respect to the gravel, as Mason, I hope, can attest, asphalt roads have gravel shoulders as well, and I wish I could say that the gravel would stop if you had a paved road on your front lawn, but they will still come, and that would be my update for that question.
Okay, thank you. So if there's nothing further, Fred?
Those were the only two questions, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. So there are no delegations this evening. We're on to unfinished business, which is a list of unfinished and deferred council business. Was there any comments, addition, deletion? Hearing none, then we'll move on to bylaws, correspondence, new business. Yeah, the first item is the Orangeville Christian School site plan exemption request. And Mr. Trotman has provided us with a memo regarding the proposed parking area expansion. And is there anything further that you wanted to add, David?
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Let's see if I can get my camera on. I don't know that I can. Oh, there I am. Sorry.
There you are.
Good. Yes, thank you. So this request came from their architect, Mark Hicks, who's well known in the area, and he's done previous work with the Orangeville Christian School. He was very helpful in facilitating the two portable classrooms, excuse me, that are on that site now. What they want to do is expand the parking and add a second entrance that will, in the near future, I don't know if that's 1 or 2 years away, facilitate a building addition to the school property, the original building. It's pretty clear from the site plan that Mr. Hicks has submitted provides some more continuity and alignment of parking and laneway logistics, if you will, on site. So the request is simply an amendment or a request for waiver of amendment of site plan approval such that we simply submit and add these drawings into the existing agreement. And that's a gist of what my memo to council outlines. Mr. Hicks is available. He's on site online right now too, as well, if you need to ask him any questions.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mark. Nice to have you join us. Is there any question from council members regarding this request? Yes, Ralph?
Mark, I noticed that one of the reasons for this additional parking is because of a proposed future addition, and that would have presumably require more vehicles that had to stay at the site. Is there some advantage to doing this approval rather than waiting until you do the approval for the addition itself?
Yes, thank you for the question, and through your worship. There are a number of concerns, safety concerns, and a requirement to separate the students from the car area, and this additional parking will allow the parents who are dropping off the students to go to a different area and keep the kids completely out of the parking lot because they can access the sidewalk to the school. Experienced significant growth. That's why the portables were put on a year or two ago. There's 2 portables there, and so there's quite a bit more traffic on the site with parents dropping off the students. So we're trying to basically create a safer environment for the school buses, avoid the buses having to back up. They'll drop off the kids and they can exit the site without having to back up, and keep the kids out of the parking and the driving aisles. And they are anticipating in the next couple of years coming back to council with a site plan application, which would resolve, the completion of the school and eliminate the 2 portables that are currently on the site. I hope that addressed your question.
Well, it does address the need, but I'm reading from your document under discussion. It says the additional 29 parking stalls, while not required for the present building use, are intended to fulfill a requirement, etc. Once the future building addition is undertaken. So it sounds like when the future building addition is undertaken, there could be a requirement for more stalls. Is that right?
Well, no, the parking that we're proposing would satisfy the zoning requirement for parking. So we actually will be providing excess parking in this phase than what the zoning would require for an elementary school.
I'm not making my point, I guess. Tell me if I'm incorrect, but part of the reason for the additional parking is because you anticipate needing more parking spaces when you enlarge the school. Is that not right?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question. Let me turn my volume up.
The reason for additional parking spaces is that you anticipate needing them when the school is enlarged. Is that not correct?
Yes, partially, but also it's a safety concern that they have in order to separate the buses and the staff parking from the parents who are bringing children to the school and dropping them off. So it's both and.
That's fine.
If that makes any sense.
Okay. Any other questions regarding this request? Seeing none, then we have a motion that council has no objection to the expansion of the site works as illustrated in the report prepared from Dixon Hicks Architects, revision number 5, dated April 20th, 2021 for Orangeville Christian School, and that a site plan agreement for this construction is not required. Could I have a mover? Moved by Nix and seconded by Martin. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Is anyone opposed? No one is opposed, so that's carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mark, for attending.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the 2022 municipal election alternative method of voting. And we have a report provided by Fred Simpson. And is there anything further that you wanted to add to your report, Fred?
No, there isn't, Your Worship, other than we're approaching the election season, and this is our first step in that process.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions regarding the report? Yes, John?
Normally, this would be the point at which I would be talking about RFPs and shopping this around. But I have to say that I support the recommendation because this is such a specialized activity, as it were. There's only 2 firms that I'm familiar with doing it, and we're obviously we have experience with the one based in Nova Scotia. So I support the recommendation, and I think they did a good job last time, and I'm impressed by the fact that every municipality in Dufferin Savin, except for Orangeville, is on board with them for the next election.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions regarding the report? Seeing none, we have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to authorize voting by internet and telephone during the 2022 municipal election, that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book, and that the mayor and the clerk be authorized to enter into an agreement with IntelliVote Systems, Inc. for the provision of internet and telephone voting methods for the 2022 municipal election. Could I have a mover? Moved by Creelman and seconded by Martin. And is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Is anyone opposed? Then that's carried. Thank you, Fred. Next item is the appointment of Integrity Commissioner. And again, Fred, you provided us with the background material.
Yeah, and I've got nothing further to add to that unless there are any specific questions regarding it. Keeping in mind that the current agreement expires on July 1st of this year.
Okay, thank you. And is there any questions regarding the report? Any comments? Yes, John?
This is where I show my inconsistencies. I would normally favor an RFP or some sort of process that opened this up to other potential integrity commissioners. The story behind this is that the current integrity commissioner for the town of Mono was unwilling to participate in an RFP process, and hence the county of Dufferin has gone with Charles Harnick, as has the town of Orangeville. I think that this is the kind of service where there are a number of potential alternatives, that we should be undertaking a process that explores that. I've always been a little concerned about the retainer amount and the hourly amount. It almost looks too good to be true. And as a consequence, I'm not going to be supportive of simply going along with the status quo on this. I think it should be opened up, and we should look at alternatives.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Fred?
Yeah, John and I talked about this afternoon, and I understand where John's coming from. I mean, in principle, he's got a very good point. But given that we use Mr. Giorno for the last X number of years, and we have 3 cases, and his rates are so reasonable, and the cases he did deal with, he did in a very satisfactory manner. I just can't see why we would go from a retainer. I've got to call my agenda back up again, from what, $200 a year to $2,000 a year, and going from $100 an hour to whatever it is, 300. I lost my agenda. It's a big difference in price. And given that we've had satisfactory service from Mr. Giorno, I'm quite prepared to take staff's recommendation at this point.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from council members? Yes, Ralph?
I have a little concerns with this, Your Honor. This is a time when the town is changing its approach to our consultants. And we're asking them to apply probably on a every 4-year basis or something like that, so that it's not a slam dunk that somebody continues to be in some position, say engineering or financial, just because they've been there before and done it for a long time. So it's a change that the town is making, and we are waiting for some regulations that put this into writing from staff. So I see at this particular time this being a bit of a retrograde move at the time when we're trying to move into a more open, transparent approach to hiring of people, that we're not taking that approach with respect to this particular appointment. And I recognize that Mr. Giorno has done 3 investigations, and they were all dealt with. And I have no way of judging other results. But I think that we should have, in fact, Mr. Giorno himself has suggested here that he would be happy. He doesn't want an RFP, but he'd be happy with an application or a recruitment process. I don't know the difference between an application and an RFP. They seem to be on the same sort of playing the same tune. I'm wondering if the staff, I guess it's Fred who wrote this report. Fred, did you consider other people, or did you have any other thoughts besides that Mr. Giorno had done this before? And what was your thinking, Fred?
Well, we had been informed and knew the county was putting out an RFP, and we had anticipated that we would certainly consider the RFP process, just like we did when we first started down this road in 2018, where what we did is followed on the RFP that the county issued. So it came as a surprise when the results were at the price that they were, and that Mr. Giorno, who at that time I wasn't aware wasn't going to be participating. So that had been our plan. And with the price that they came in on, the county RFP, is the reason why, combined with our satisfaction with Mr. Giorno and his pricings combined, that we've made the recommendation to stay with him.
So if I can continue, the pricing actually is something that raised a red flag in my thinking because I estimate that the pricing is about 1/3 of what a senior lawyer like he would normally charge at an hourly rate. So I can't quite understand that. And I spoke to two people, asked them if they understood it. Nobody seems to have an answer. Well, I think that this is a not a big issue in my mind, but the appropriate thing to do is to have this as an open request to people to apply, and we didn't do that. We haven't allowed that.
Okay, Sharon?
I'm sorry that I can't really hear Ralph very well, but I'm happy to go with the staff recommendation with Guy Giarno. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we do have a prepared motion to appoint Guy Giarno. So I need to know if you are willing to, at this time, put that motion on the floor and see if it passes. Yes, Fred? You'll be willing to, okay, so the motion reads that we introduce and give the necessary ratings to a bylaw to appoint Guy Giarno as Integrity Commissioner for the Town of Mono from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2024, or until his successor is appointed, and that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. So that's moved by Fred Nix and seconded by Sharon. And is there any further discussion? So I'll call for the vote. Is anyone opposed? I have John Creelman and Ralph Manklow opposed. And those in favor? So that's 3-2, so that's carried. Okay, the next item is the Adopt a Road program from Mike Dunmore that Elaine Capes is operating as Little Creek Ranch, wants to make application to adopt a road on the portion of Mono Agila Town line from 25 side road to 30 side road for an estimated length of 3.05 kilometers. And I understand, Mike, with your report that you're recommending that this be allowed. And so we have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw authorizing the town of Mono to enter into an agreement with Elaine Capes, operating as Little Creek Ranch, substantially in the form as attached as Schedule A to the bylaw, that be signed by the mayor and the clerk for the town of Mono, sealed and engrossed in bylaw book. Do I have a mover for that motion? Moved by Creelman and seconded by Magdalo. And is there any further discussion? Yes, John?
I'm just happy to see two items on tonight's agenda that deal with cleaning up stretches of road. But I'd like council to consider instituting an ongoing program, maybe with the assistance of the Recreation Department, to encourage Mono residents who are out on walks and who have their own stretches of road to clean up those stretches of road, maybe have a photographic contest of how much junk you've been able to get out of the ditches. I think this is something that we need to do, and we have done in the past on Earth Day as an example, or in and around Earth Day. But I think it should be an ongoing activity that the town sponsors and encourages in addition to the Adopt a Road program.
Yes, Fred?
Yeah, I think that would be great, John, but just to refresh your memory, first of all, I have a section of the fourth line, and I've told Mike this. I'm not in the Adopt the Road program, but I do 2.2 kilometers of the fourth line every year, and I've been doing it for years and will continue to do it. But just to refresh your memory, the Recreation Advisory Committee, Kim's online, so she can correct me if I'm wrong. 2 or 3 years ago, or whatever it was, we did come up with a plan, and it didn't get through council. It was turned down. Am I right, Kim?
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was actually last year, 2020.
Okay.
What?
It was turned down. Okay, or not approved.
Oh my God.
Well, I'd love to see it again because I don't recall that. But I take your word that it was turned down, but I think we should revisit it. And maybe this time we can pass it.
If I remember correctly, the format was that each council member would take a sector of the municipality and be responsible for getting residents to participate and do what was required. And I totally am in favor of people doing cleanup. My problem is that in my sector of Mono, most people were weekenders and retired and not able to get in and out of the ditches. So I could see that particular idea wasn't going to work. So maybe there's another way of going at it. I'm totally in favor of having Adopt a Road or anyone having the initiative of wanting to go and do their area of the municipality and having the garbage fees waived or whatever pickups with Public Works. So that's kind of where that discussion ended up, I believe. So I don't think it's the end of the discussion. It's just we need to figure out a way of doing it. Yes, Sharon?
I guess we have to figure out a way to do it. We do on the blind line from Orangeville to County Road 16. And there have been a few things like a toilet where I had to actually have staff come and get that when I couldn't get that in my truck. But I haven't had any takers from my neighbors. So we do it. And if they want to get involved, they can. But yeah, and I'd be happy to take on another part of Mono and help someone else who lives there to do that on maybe, once a month or something like that. But whatever you work out, there's got to be an answer. And certainly there is a lot of garbage around. It's pretty annoying to see the stuff along the sides of the road. And I don't just mean the hunks of sod and the leaves and things like that. Other things.
Kim?
This is something that I've been doing some research on in the last few weeks and looking around at other municipalities and how they handle it. And it appears that it is through social media and their website where they encourage people to go out and clean up a portion of the roads in front of their homes or whenever they're out on a trail walk or that type of thing. It's strong social media presence to encourage the be kind to your community type of message. So I've been speaking with our Director of Public Works in regards to it as well and talking about the Adopt a Road program, which is very successful and something that Mike has run very successfully and is working out quite well as well. So I think if we do a lot of social media presence in this regard and continue with our Adopt the Road program, and one final part was that I was going to put together basically a collage, something about, pick up send us a picture of you picking up garbage in Mono, and we'll create a huge collage, and whether or not it goes on our website or it gets put down in our front lobby or something like that, because I know Councillor Martin and I have some big plans for the front lobby, and maybe we'll include that in it. But you know, that might be some way of recognizing people and their efforts. And I also like the idea if we can, you know, give them free garbage tags for that type of garbage so that they don't have to pay for it to be picked up in their own.
Okay, thanks for that. So I guess we are still trying to figure out how to encourage and promote this. And so with Kim's help and possibly Fred Simpson with the website, we might be able to develop some more progress in this regard. So we still do have the motion on the floor, moved by Creelman, seconded by Mantelo, regarding Elaine Capes operating as a Little Creek Ranch to do pickup on Mono Agila Town Line. I see she's online, and thank you very much, Elaine, for putting your name forward. And so I'll call for the vote. Is anyone opposed to this motion? And seeing none, that's carried. And the next one is Adopt a Road program with Tamara Rebanks from Big Hat Farm, that we introduce and give necessary readings to a bylaw authorizing the town of Mono to enter into an agreement with Tamara Rebanks operating as Big Hat Farm, substantially in the form as attached to Schedule A to the bylaw, that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk for the town of Mono, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover? Moved by Nix and seconded by Martin. And again, big thanks to Tamara for putting your name forward and your time. And is there any further discussion regarding this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Is anyone opposed? I see none, so that's carried. Thank you very much, Tamara and Elaine, for joining us tonight. And so now we get on to Schedule A. There's a number of items here, so I'll start with Ralph. Do you have anything on Schedule A that you wanted to comment on?
No, I have nothing about it.
Okay. Fred Nix? Yes?
Just one thing to note in the number 4. You may remember at the last council meeting, Mark and I had a report on a water management agreement, and I had a footnote in that report that said we were overdue. We were supposed to have that in place by 2018, and it's still not in place, which isn't our fault, by the way. But if you'll notice under item 4, it turns out that's not the only thing that hasn't been going according to the original provincial schedule. It's not an important point, but I just bring it to your attention that these risk management plans are taking a bit longer to get in place than I think originally envisaged. And so the province has extended the deadline for them. I wasn't sure, Mark, and maybe you know in reading it, when it says we have 3 risk management plans, is that saying we're short 3 plans that need to be done, or that we've got 3 in place? I couldn't quite understand that paragraph of the report.
No, those are all within the various communities. Those are all outstanding reports that are risk management plans that need to be put together. So they include 3 of the uses within the light industrial area down near the Coles Water Tower. They're related to identified DNAPLs, which are dense non-aqueous, what's that, the P? Fluids. Anyways, they're cancerous. They sink in water. They're very deadly to a community's water supply. The risk management plans were started by our risk management officer Ryan Post prior to the pandemic. So starting late 2019, I guess they were trying to get them done. They just do not have the capability to get in there and do the inspections needed on these particular properties. So Given the extension now in place, these 3 risk management plans will be done. The threats and the risk management plans are the same. So the threat is the DNAPL at the 3 sites. The risk management plans are required to address the threats.
Fred?
Just to continue with that, Mark, as I remember it, and I know Ryan has been out there and talked to these people, I don't think there's enough muscle in the legislation. I mean, you go into a gas station or an automobile dealer and there's a risk. And you tell them, under the Clean Water Act, you've got to come up with a risk management plan. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's no, other than telling them that, I don't know if there's a way of forcing them to develop these plans. Is that part of the problem?
I think that's part of the problem with the entire legislation was there was never any penalties in place. That was kind of why all the municipalities said, why do we have to do this joint water agreement? What's the penalty if we don't? I mean, that's municipalities taking, you know, a kind of a snide look at the legislation. I mean, obviously we're going to go do it because we're responsible to do it, but that is the problem with the legislation to a large degree. There is no teeth at the end of the day.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Fred? No. Sharon?
Number 2, I just wanted to comment on the letter that we got back from our premier, which did not address any of the questions or the confusion or whatever in our mayor's letter at all. And I have a lot of trouble understanding why people can't go out and golf at Dufferin Glen, and yet they can crowd up the hill into Mono Cliffs Park. So, and that all goes to the letter, the email that I sent out about driving up there on Saturday and seeing a lot of traffic, a lot of unmasked people who should be staying home and playing in their own areas and leaving us alone at least for a while. That's all, but it's all, the letter just wouldn't address anything. It just was signed.
Okay, thank you.
That's the only thing.
John, did you have anything on Schedule A?
Yes, item number 14, the resolution of Grand Valley with regard to police service boards. I'm delighted to see that they've endorsed our position, the position that council has taken by vote and incorporated into a letter to the Honorable Sylvia Jones. I am concerned about the process that is ongoing, initiated by the warden. It's an ad hoc committee consisting of mayors, and there have been 2 subsequent motions passed, one by Melanchthon, the other by Mulmer, that are not as clear, frankly. While they endorse the notion of a rural police service board, it's not clear whether they endorse 1 or 2 police service boards. And council will recall that I argued very strenuously for 2 because 1 board would be probably too big, a membership potentially of 21, unlikely to be approved by the province. And we would be back in a situation where the province would impose a solution involving Grand Valley, Orangeville, and the rural municipalities, and we would end up sharing representation with other municipalities, both in terms of members of council and potentially members of the public. So I'd like to find out, if I can, where we are in this process and whether or not everybody out there understands the importance of the structure that was again approved by this council in advance to the minister.
And I'm no further ahead than you are, John, in terms of where we are in the process, because the meeting was held. I was not able to attend. I have no results of what came out of that meeting. I do know that both Shelburne and Orangeville were not content with one joint board for the whole municipality or the whole county. So I'm fairly confident that they would like their own standalone. But as far as the others, I don't know where that's gone. So I guess I can find out on Thursday when we have county council to find out where things are with the other municipalities.
Well, I think it's critical that we don't wake up one morning and find that a proposal has been submitted to the Solicitor General through their portal that purports to be on behalf of all municipalities of Dufferin without the work of this ad hoc committee coming back for ratification by each of the local municipalities. Again, I'm reading between the lines here, but I'm not certain that Momer and Melanchthon fully understand the notion of rural boards. I think there may be a misapprehension that a single rural board would work, whereas I'm prepared to argue that it will not work. As for Orangeville and Shelburne, I can see some reticence on their part in terms of teaming up. But again, I think the alternative to not teaming up as we would team up with Melanchthon and Momer is that the province will come in and impose a solution on us, and that worries me greatly. So I'll just leave it at that. But I think I think we need to find out exactly what's going on and how this process proceeds.
Okay, thank you. And is there anything else on Schedule A? So seeing none, we have a motion that we accept Schedule A to this agenda. Could I have a mover? Moved by Nix and seconded by Magtalo. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed to the motion? Seeing none, that's carried. So now we're on to reports of council and staff. So we'll start with Kim. Do you have anything to report on behalf of Recreation?
Couple of things here. One is to let council know I heard just this afternoon from the Healthy Community Initiatives regarding the grant application that we submitted for the washrooms and water infrastructure over at Island Lake Family Park. Unfortunately, we were not successful in that grant application. However, round 2 is opening up on Friday, May the 14th for it, where we can resubmit, which I will be doing. So we'll give her a try one more time. And second is to let council know that I met today with the new tourism manager with the County of Dufferin, Terry Lynn Kunopaski, I think you say it. Anyways, lovely, lovely lady. I'm sure our mayor and deputy mayor are familiar with her. And I really enjoyed, we met for about an hour and a half this afternoon. And one of her initiatives, one of her forefront initiatives is to familiarize the local residents with all that the community has to offer, all that the county has to offer within, or all that we have to offer within our county, which I thought was a great initiative to just let our residents know about all the wonderful features we have here. So her mandate right now is just to get out there and to meet some of the players here in the municipality, hence one of the reasons I was talking with her. And she's got a huge job in front of her, but I look really forward to working with her wherever she needs any assistance, and just introducing her to some of the players that I might know that may help her here in Mono. So yeah, she's a great young lady, and I think the county's done a great job with hiring her on. the third thing is to let you know grant-wise that we were successful in one of our grants, and that was with Canada Summer Jobs. And which is the grant that sponsors us being able to bring a summer student in. So I have put an advertisement, or gotten Andrew to put an advertisement up on the website for our summer student once again this year. And applications close at the end of the day tomorrow, and the plan is to have someone in place starting for May the 25th. And last but not least, just to follow up on the removal or the cutting down of all the dead ash trees within Mono, we continue to work away at that initiative. Recreation staff, mostly Dave Mikowski, under the wonderful guidance, as I've told you before, of Ross Martin, and a few volunteers from the ski club, which have been great. So we figure about another 2 to 3 weeks, and all of the dead ash trees will be cut down in all of our tracks. This includes Menora, Aikens, 1926, and the Anderson tract. And this has been a job of about removing upwards of 400 ash trees. And this has all been done between volunteers and in-house. So I just want to send out a huge thank you to Dave Mikowski and Ross and all of the volunteers that have worked on this project so far, because it's been a huge savings to the town of Mono. So anyways, that's all I've got to let you know about. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'm here.
Any questions of Kim? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Kim. Dave Trotman.
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Nothing new really to report. Ongoing projects, as I think I've cited in the past couple of meetings. So no, nothing really new at this point in time. We have a number of projects going on. We have a committee of adjustment meeting on May 27th, and we're going to have another one again in June. But yeah, nothing further really to support at this time. Thank you.
Any questions of David? Seeing none, thank you, David. Les, do you have anything that you'd like to update us with?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one update regarding the parking enforcement officer position. Applications acceptance closed last Friday at 4:30. We received approximately 40 applications, went through them, and between the clerk and myself, we're doing interviews on Monday, May the 17th. Other than that, that's my update.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Les? Seeing none, thank you very much, Les.
Thank you.
Mike?
Thank you, Your Worship. So as I noted earlier, our calcium application is scheduled to start May 18th, subject to weather, of course. We are getting around the town now with our grading and the quadrant approach, and hopefully we're eliminating the concerns as quick as possible. Maintenance gravel will start on May the 25th, and we'll follow that application as well. I'm in early discussions with North Frontenac Telecom with respect to the engineering aspect of the fiber project that was approved by SWIFT for that company, and that'll commence this Friday. And I had a really good conversation with them and looking to expedite that for them as quick as possible.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Mike? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mike. Fred Simpson.
Also on the subject of grant applications, the town/Rosemont Fire Hall was successful in the fire safety grant application that went out about a month or month and a half ago. And so that money will be coming in and forwarded to the fire hall shortly. And that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions of Fred? Okay, thank you. Mark.
Good evening, Your Worship. I've got 4 items. One, I would have done last meeting. I didn't have time. I apologize for being in and out of that meeting. The Parks Committee meeting that we had just prior to the last meeting, I just want to let council know that the park superintendent has confirmed that they've already got half their seasonal staff on board. So there is going to be a bit more policing going on out there within the properties. They're looking to add the additional staff by the beginning of June. And council will recall we had asked the minister to consider Mono Cliffs to be part of their reservation system, where you have to have a reservation to get into the park. That is still in play. There's been no formal commitments made to that. Obviously, Mono Cliffs is still a site being considered, and they're hoping to make that decision and announcement on May 17th. So hopefully we'll be on that list, and that will help go a long way to alleviating some of the parking issues that we do have out there. Joint water management, I know Fred mentioned this earlier. I received an email probably maybe 20 minutes before the meeting tonight from Janet Ivey, basically advising that CTC, we're just trying to facilitate that agreement, that it's up to the 3 municipalities to sit down and work out your issues. Chris Garrett's will be contacting the other 2 municipalities to sit down to weed through that agreement and make the changes that we feel are necessary and submit it to CTC. AODA, that's the accessibility group of the province. If you recall, they started an audit on the town back in November of 2020. We replied in a December submission to them. They've got back to us, and they haven't cleared us. They're looking for some additional documents and some documents to be posted online. So I'm working through that audit with them. I don't think there's anything serious in there. It seems to be more following the exact wording of the legislation. And then finally, I'll call it the 4th line matter, and tread carefully here. A revised work plan was submitted this afternoon by the landowners. It really doesn't go any further than the last work plan did. It's quite disappointing in that regard. They're proposing now to build the buildings and put the various materials into the building, and they're going to fix multiple cars for multiple uses on the property. It's just not a good work plan. Eugene's reviewing it now. I expect we'll be drafting a new order probably this week, basically directing them what we want to see removed from the property and go from there. So,
Okay, Fred?
that's all I have.
Yes, Mark, on the joint water management plan, you said Chris is going to sit down with the other 2 municipalities. You mean East Gary and Orangeville. Does that?
Sorry, Fred, I forgot Orangeville.
Okay, but do you know if he is on side with the changes we proposed?
Amaranth had dealt with the proposal at council before we had even done it. So I think East Gary's on side with our changes. So it's just a matter of sitting down and making what changes we want to see to the agreement, and then resubmitting it back into CTC.
Okay, so when he sits down with these other municipalities, is this staff to staff, or is this at the political level?
I would believe it'd be at the political level, Fred. I think that's where we were last time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of Mark? Okay, thank you very much, Mark. So, Ralph, do you have anything to report?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Okay, Sharon?
I'm going to let Fred talk about our meeting, fire board meeting. That's
Okay.
what my report is.
Okay, Fred?
Yeah, we had a fire board meeting a week ago, and just the background here to the other councillors is, you know, we're operating under an agreement written in 1991. 2-3 years ago, we revised that agreement. Our CAOs spent some time on it. We had a brand new agreement. 4 municipalities have approved it. Shelburne has not. It's been difficult because the sense, now I'm reading a bit between the lines, okay. I've always had the sense the Shelburne reps on the fire board think by talking to the fire board, they can either get the changes in the draft agreement, or if they want to dissolve the fire board, they can do it through the fire board. At our last meeting, we had an agenda item with the Amaranth motion to not pay the capital portion of the levy on the table, but there was no motion from the fire board. There was no motion on the floor in terms of what to do about this, either agreement or dissolving the fire board. However, they got a bit of a lecture, and for the first time, I actually now have a sense that the Shelburne reps on the fire board understand that if they either want changes to the agreement, or if they want to go ahead with this dissolving it, that it's up to Shelburne to approach the other 4 municipal councillors. Okay, I know that sounds obvious, but up to this point in time, they've sort of addressed us on the fire board as if we have the power to do that. We don't. Either to change the agreement or to dissolve the fire board, it's Shelburne that has to approach each of the 4 councils and get them to agree to it. So I think for the first time, I think I understand that the 2 reps there understand that. The second thing I have to report is on the parking issue, which Mark and others were talking about. There was a plan in the bylaw we passed to get the Bruce Trail security officials to authorize them to issue parking tickets. Unless Fred Simpson has more up-to-date information, it doesn't appear that's going to be possible to do right now. The Bruce Trail will have their security firm out there on the, when's the long weekend, the 20, whenever it's coming up, but they will not be issuing parking tickets for the town of Mold.
Okay. John, do you have anything to report?
Just a quick question for Fred, following up on the Bruce Trail. Could the Bruce Trail people be handing out warning notices that or putting them on windshields to the effect that you may be subject to being ticketed where you're parked?
Conceivably, yes. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Which Fred were you talking about?
Which Fred?
I apologize.
Which Fred, John?
Fred Nix.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't know, Fred Simpson, if you think they can, but they had a long letter from their security firm pointing out all the reasons why their enforcement officers could not take on this added responsibility, including such things as approaching a car that was illegally parked and possibly meeting an antagonistic person. So they didn't seem willing to consider issuing tickets. I doubt they would be willing to be putting notices on people's cars, but Fred, have you got any better sense of that than I do?
No, I was going to say the same thing. It's conceivably they could, but their security company is reluctant at this point. So it's not the Bruce Trail Conservancy, it's the advice they receive from the security company. The company's not willing or feels they're not in a position to be able to adequately handle parking enforcement, and that would likely extend to other measures. They've taken the position that they'll monitor and call the OPP if necessary.
Fair enough. Just on a number of matters to follow up on parking, I sent a photograph out over the course of the weekend to depict what is occurring up on the second line, and suggested that maybe we want to revisit the very generous area there for parking purposes. It's becoming quite a zoo. It's having the unintended consequence of dumping a lot of people into a sensitive area of the park who otherwise might be entering the park from the third line or the 25th side road. So I think we may not have gotten the no parking zone correct there. I think we're good on the third line. I saw no examples of parking on both sides of the road, so I think that I think Sharon did, however, but I didn't witness that. But I think we need to maybe each one of us go up and have a look at the second line on a bright sunny day and see whether we've got that got that sorted out. The second thing I had to report on was I appeared in my own capacity before the Legislative Committee considering Bill 282, which is the legislation that, among other things, increases penalties for stunt speeding. And one of the other consequences of that bill is a regulatory change that reduces the threshold for stunt speeding from 50 down to 40 kilometers per hour, but only on roads where the speed limit is less than 80 kilometers per hour. I pointed this out to the committee and indicated that, quite frankly, if you're going to do it for everyone all across Ontario. And I believe I had a fair amount of support from representatives, frankly, of all three parties on that committee. And I believe that when they revisit the bill this coming Friday for what they call clause-by-clause consideration, you may find some amendments. I wasn't alone in my remarks. There were other presenters from various organizations and people appearing privately who had similar concerns about such things as automated speed enforcement and the handcuffs that they put us in on that. All in all, it was a really interesting experience. Virtually no partisanship whatsoever. Everyone was on the same page, and I think it was a rewarding exercise, and I've circulated a copy of my remarks to Counsel. I believe that's all I've got for now.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for doing that on behalf of our residents. It definitely is exemplary work. Okay, so
I'd like just to thank John for his presentation and sending it to us. It was a really good job, John. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I was very careful to say that I was presenting in my personal capacity, but I did identify myself as deputy mayor and member of the Police Services Board and a retired JP.
Yeah. All of those things always help. Okay, so on to notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion tonight? Seeing none, we have no in-camera items. So is there any other business that needs to be brought forward? Seeing none, then we will close off. That we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Molo in session 10-2021 held on 11th of May 2021, that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover? Moved by Martin and seconded by Nix. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. Is anyone opposed? That's carried. And if there's nothing further, that we adjourn this meeting at 8:20 p.m. Could I have a motion, mover? Moved by Magdalo and seconded by Creelman. And that is carried. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.